Hey everybody, Jason Sherman here. In today's episode of Zero to CEO, I have with me a cybersecurity expert and U.S. Army veteran, Stephen Semmelroth. Welcome to the show.
Very excited to be here, Jason. I've heard a lot. Long-time listener, first-time caller.
Love it. And this is actually a really cool episode for me in particular because I've been thinking a lot about this, and I would like to hear what you say about it. So the topic is how to protect your business from cybercrime and security threats. I've never done an episode like this. So I've done a lot about marketing and, business and how to promote this, that, and the other thing. But cybercrime, security threats, I'm always telling my friends, my family, man, if Russia or China sends an EMP our way or hack our infrastructure and our networks, what happens next besides us becoming cavemen again? Mm-hmm. So first thing I want to ask you is this Russia-Ukraine war, right? Has there been an increase of threats from Russia to the U.S. since that happened?
The short answer there is yes. The longer answer is much more nuanced. So if we really look at some of the initial threat response, I'll say one of the more interesting things that came out of this, that has come out of this so far, is the amount of actionable intelligence and understanding that we have. And I can circle back to how and why we have it in just a minute. But I find it fascinating, truly fascinating. And when the war kicked off, physically, it had already been going on for years.
Wow.
In the cyber landscape. And when we go back even further, Andy Greenberg has this great book called Sandworm. And Sandworm was the story of how allegedly Russia shut down Ukraine's power grids twice, 365 days apart.
Wow.
Over the holidays. And Andy went out, and the cyber leader at some of those power grids, names Vasily Yatsinski, Andy interviewed him and said, "What do you think this is? Why do you think it works?" Because the first time they got shut down, the bad guys in this case used available tools that are all over the place. Just a shot across the bow. Hey, we want to keep you nimble, keep you dancing.
For those of us listening or watching who don't know what those things are at our disposal, can you name some of you said there's a whole bunch of things at their disposal. Like what are some of them?
Free and open source tools like Black Energy 2.0 or 3.0 in the cyber landscape, or even in this case, they just use effectively a remote desktop tool that admins all over the world use, all over the world. And what they did was they took control of the computer in the operations center and locked out the administrators. So literally the administrators are sitting there watching their mouse go around and click and turn off electrical substations. Let's click, shut down, shut down.
I mean, besides the obvious question of how did they let this happen, how can you prevent this from happening moving forward? Now that you've seen your admins being shut out, I mean, we've all watched James Bond movies where the hacker's trying to get in and like, no, I'm locked out. I'm locked out. How do you get past that lockout? How do you get to the point where they can't lock you out? Isn't there something we can do? And for a business owner, same thing, that we don't want them tapping into our data centers,
Yeah, so there are so many buzzwords in this space because you talked about marketing previously. You've talked about this, and some of the guests that have come on have talked about how do you tell the world what you do. Well, here's the problem in cybersecurity and cybersecurity marketing is anytime there's a new buzzword, everybody says they do it, which means no one actually does it, or it's hard to figure out who the heck actually does it. So the outcome there is that finding partners that can help is really a big challenge in this space, and it's one that I've enjoyed tackling for a few years. And when we look at it, if I were to try to break down the complexity of cybersecurity, it wouldn't mean anything to almost any listener.
Yeah. It's
So
complicated.
I can tell you what boards are asking right now. Boards are asking 3 questions in order to help mature their own cybersecurity efforts.
Mm-hmm.
Number one, are we spending the right amount of money? Are we spending it in the right places? And are we confident in our program?
Those
And
are
that's
good.
where we get rid of, when we look at confidence, that's where we look at risk. Spending the money in the right places, that means we know where, like, we actually have a program and we know where we're spending money, and we've identified where we need to spend money, and all that goes back into, are we spending in the right places? So if we look at, like, back to Ukraine's power distribution systems and their grid, whether it's, Ukraine's local power grid or outside of it, and almost all of them have been targeted, and they were targeted again this week. The question is, do the people that run them, the decision makers, whether they're public or private or a partnership, are they actually spending the right amount of money to the point where they can get to a defensive posture and
Right.
be confident in their systems?
Because they're always, I mean, this is something that, again, I'm not a cybersecurity expert like you are, but being in the IT and the web world for half my life,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen enough news articles about hackers taking over data centers, hospitals, universities, government agencies. The list goes on. Countries have been shut down because of it. And there just are not enough white hat hackers helping save the day. It's mostly black hat hackers. And for people listening, maybe I'm wrong here, but white hat versus black hat. The white hat are the good guys trying to find the bugs, find the back doors, find the worms and the malwares to stop them from hurting a business. The black hat guys are the guys that are trying to make money from that exploit by ransoming your data or saying, please send Bitcoin to this address or you don't get your data back or whatever. So why aren't there enough white hat hackers helping save the day? And how can we get more of them to defend, for example, the United States of America against cyber attacks from all the other countries who are now attacking us?
Great question. Here's part on there. There's 2 answers to it. The first part, as we in the community, we have failed to make the community an open place for a long time. That has changed. Now the cybersecurity community, kind of the old guard versus the new guard has made this community one of the most opening, welcome communities, but it's only been a few years.
Okay.
5 years since. Before this, there was a mentality that to join the industry, you had to be a phenomenal expert engineer and architect, which means you can't communicate to business leaders.
Right. You're a programmer. Programmers historically are antisocial.
Yes, sir.
I know. Trust me.
So there used to be this philosophy: you cannot get into cyber until you've mastered network, domain, admin. The list goes on, and then you've unlocked, being a security leader. Meanwhile, we never learned how to communicate.
Right.
So that first piece of being able to communicate, and the second piece is and you still hear a lot of this advice today. Hey, how do I get into cybersecurity? Well, you must learn how to be a penetration tester first. You must do that for 3 years. Then you must be a SOC analyst. And that is really failing the industry, because that, again, means you must be a technical person first.
Right.
And for the people that are listening to this, I have a neon sign behind me that has
people.
the word people on it.
Yeah.
Because when we look at it, there's 2 types of companies. Companies that need cybersecurity services and companies that take cybersecurity services to market.
Right.
And it's that second piece where we need lawyers with a cyber focus. We need marketing teams. We need design teams. We need UI engineers. We need data scientists. We need, you name it. We need salespeople.
So it's not just programmers.
Yeah. We need people that literally don't want to touch a keyboard at all, ever. And they do a very good job explaining the threat, because
it's visual.
They work with people all the time.
It's storytelling. You make it in layman's terms so that they can understand. Well, you know how you love that marketing campaign so much, and you got all these user analytics, and you're capturing financial information from your customers. Well, what if all of that was stolen and exploited to everybody? Oh wait, we got to protect that. So, and then you have the white hat hackers that are exploiting these things for, I guess, bug bounties. I've seen those a ton of times where
Mhm.
they might have gotten paid 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, $100,000 to exploit bugs. And they just made their yearly salary in a month for finding those bugs.
And they did it for good.
Right. Versus doing it to say, well, you give me $5 million and I'll give you your data back. Now, this asks, this poses a question in my mind is with the amount of security risks that are out there, do enough companies offer a bug bounty program or white hat security risk programs to people out there and say, hey, because as you mentioned, there's not enough of these programmers out there. I'm assuming they have really high paying jobs at companies and they don't want to leave to do these white hat jobs. Is that part of the problem? And I know it's two questions.
Well, let me take a step back and talk about the people problem again. So the there are probably more white hat hackers, so people that can launch an exploit than the market can fully utilize right now.
Interesting.
Because that's where all the training investment has been, because that's what's sexy. That's what
Right.
our movies here in the US and the Commonwealth glorify.
Absolutely.
It's dangerous. It's scary. You're living on the edge. You can get pink mohawk. Great.
You can stop a nuclear warhead from going off within minutes, that kind of thing.
Cyber nuclear war. So there's been this great evolution because there's been a market demand from the people side of the house. And I used to own and run a cyber recruiting company. So I've been looking into this for a long time, at the practitioner level and from an academic perspective as well. The part that's really challenging is finding people that have the detective mindset. So like when work isn't work, it's a calling, right? I'm paraphrasing Sherlock Holmes.
Mm-hmm.
To take that type of person and then give them the business skills they need to focus on revenue, to focus on business outcomes, to understand what is the risk, how do we modify it, and then translate it across business units because they're excited about either the tech or the business outcomes or the intelligence that comes out of it. That's a big challenge. It's really tough to do, and that's where we have the problems.
This is the age-old disconnect that us entrepreneurs have faced for decades of the programmer doesn't understand why that feature needs to be launched on this day when the marketing team is pushing a certain campaign and the business depends on it, and they don't understand the connection between those things. I face that every day, and it happens on the other side too. Technology might be ahead, then marketing might be lacking behind. I mean, you have to have both on the same page, and I totally agree. The white hat hackers don't understand that, which is why there should be liaisons. There should be translators of these marketing and business people, right? So how can we get everybody on the same level? What's the way to fix this?
Yeah, so there's a few different ways. And one is training. And I'm not necessarily talking about, the corporate training that you get that says, "Oh, look, don't click on links." Cool. How effective was that? I'm talking about training about what a cybersecurity program is and does and how everyone is a part of it. To the point where sales and marketing understand what it is they're actually doing and then get the right information on the website, which is a challenge. So oh, cool, we've got this amazing product offering. Cool. Does it integrate with any of this? Well, you're going to have to, sign a POC and we'll find out.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So that's a challenge. But the other side of the house is there's still a perception that the bad guys are kids in hoodies in their parents' basement.
Right.
And that's where, I talked in the beginning a little bit about the intelligence that we have about different threats since the Ukraine-Russia conflict began. Let me tell you why we know, and then I'll tell you what we know. So the first piece is when Russia launched the landware into Ukraine, a threat group out there called Conti said, hey, we're going to align with Russia. But they had a Ukrainian development team. So those Ukrainian development teams didn't like that. And so they published an amazing set, 170,000 internal chat messages.
Oh my
So
God.
we know the whole ransomware gang. We know their development. We know their quality assurance. We know how they negotiate. We know all of it. And the fact that their quality assurance for their code is bigger than anything else is probably the most important piece. They are an ecosystem.
Oh,
They are better at outsourcing than we are. They are better at marketing. They use our marketing tools. They use our sales tools. They use all of them. They're called out in their playbook that they bring on when they hire new people and train them before they go to a team.
that's insane. I mean, I figured it was pretty sophisticated. This was eye-opening for me, man. I appreciate the information. Where can people find out more about what you do as a cybersecurity expert?
Yep. So I post pretty voraciously on LinkedIn because I want this to be a better place, and I want the community to continue to be open. And so I open source a lot of content. I post on LinkedIn and also at goavant.net. We've got our blog there. I posted that. We've got a podcast there. I'm on that quite often. And for anybody that's interested in trying to access more vendors for their clients, if you're a consultant, reach out, because that second piece of, okay, what now do we do now that this white hat hacker came in? They give you a list of fix all the things. That's not really useful. How do you prioritize it? How do you build a plan? How do you build a roadmap? So that's part of what we solve. And we try to make it really easy to understand who does what, when, where, what are the business objectives, and how does it move the needle for a company.
Love it. Thank you, Stephen. That was awesome. And hope you guys learned something about cybersecurity, and we'll see you guys in the next episode.